And we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of In Lay Terms. I'm your host, Payman Ascari. This is a very special episode. That doesn't mean that I'm actually going to get my act together, but this is the first time that I've actually hosted a panel, and I'm very fortunate to have three of my fellow PPC candidates with us. Some housekeeping before we get going. Could you mute your microphones just to prevent some feedback? And to get things started, let's get some introductions. First to you, Mr. Quinlan.
I'm Nathan Quinlan, representing or hoping to represent Mississauga Malton. This is my first time running for an election, and of course, it's for the PPC because I can read and I read the platform, and it is the way it is. Everyone else just does not represent my values, but the PPC is almost a perfect alignment.
Perfect. And top of the hour, could you just quickly tell us where can people volunteer? How do they get a hold of you?
You can go to nquinlan.ca or nathan-quinlan.ca, and that's my website where I'm directing people to wherever they can access me.
Thank you very much. Next, you're up next, Mr. Watson.
Hi there. I'm David Watson. I'm with the Prince George Peace River Northern Rockies riding. This is my first time running. I went with PPC to be a candidate there because I felt that, as I've been saying to everybody else, you need to go with your beliefs and your values, and they have my beliefs and values. I feel very strongly that anybody who looks at the situation will determine that their values are going to be very similar to ours. You can reach me at our website, which is pgprnr.site, S-I-T-E, and there's locations there for donations and membership and everything else you'd want. Plus, I have a number of things that I've written and hosted, like videos and stuff like that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Watson. Please let me know if I pronounce this correctly. Mr. Gupta, you're next.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for giving me this platform to speak to you all. First time doing an interview, so please bear with me. Amit Gupta, I am representing Mississauga East Cooksville for People's Party of Canada. I am an engineer by background, but my expertise is in financial modeling for very large enterprises. My claim to fame has been over the last 10 years, I've helped Fortune 500 companies save more than $10 billion in spend. And, when I put down that hat and I started looking at our political landscape, which I was really tired of, the only party that kind of made sense to me, given the fiscal accountability and responsibility and freedom perspective, was PPC. I do not like crime. I hate crime. I am a stand believer in Castle Doctrine. I am stand believer in accountability. I'm stand believer of freedom and my rights not to be trampled on, and that's when I'm with PPC. I'm looking forward to talking to you all. My website is not up right now, but it will be up. It's going to be voteforamit.ca. You can find me on Twitter at Amit Gupta PPC. That's my handle. I'm looking forward to a chat. Please reach out to me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gupta. Thanks for the wonderful introductions. I am just here as a referee. We have 5 questions to try to get through. Audience, I apologize if we don't get to your questions. I ask that you try to keep your answers brief. They don't have to be 10, 20 seconds, but we have 5 questions to go to, and in fairness to your fellow candidates, try to keep it as condensed as possible. So we're going to start with you, Mr. Quinlan. The first question I have, on the PBT podcast, Max was recently asked what it means to be a Canadian. I want to know what do you think it means to be Canadian, or asked a different way, what is the Canadian dream?
I don't know. As when it comes to what represents your culture, culture is usually taught in school. As a graduate of the public school system in Ontario, I don't know what that is other than some people went canoeing down a river at some point in the past collecting fur. Beyond that, we don't teach culture to our children. If it's not done in the home, it's whatever. So Trudeau's erasure of history and culture and what is a Canadian has been pretty good, but it's been a long time coming. And to me, what are the Canadian values? The closest thing that I hear people say is we're not American. And that just means we're not squirrels. So what's the difference? Like, that's not an answer. So to me, I as well, having lived my entire life here, I don't know the answer. So that's it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Quinlan. We'll go to you, Mr. Watson.
Well, it's a pretty good question, actually. I actually didn't hear the broadcast that Max did. I was looking forward to seeing it, but I haven't seen it yet. I've been quite busy. I think for the most part, being a Canadian means that we have a lifestyle that we have become accustomed to, and we would like to maintain that lifestyle. Some people would like to make it better, and others would like to make it extremely better. But everyone wants to basically keep what they have at least and move forward from there, or make sure that their kids and their family can move forward at least when it's their turn to move on. The Canadian dream basically is just that, is living a life that is, I think, full of adventure, but adventure is different for everyone. Sometimes that adventure is on the scholastic side. For others, it's on the work side or on the business side, and for others, it's on the artistic side. And I think that's what everybody needs to go for and continue to go for. And when you look at it as a whole, it is something that many people are unable to do today because of the position of the what the government has put us in for the last 10 years or so, especially in the last 5 years. They've taken away enormous freedoms. They've tried to take away our rights. They've tried to make things basically as difficult as they could for everyone. And in doing that, they have basically ruined life and lifestyle in Canada. So the dream right now is to get some of that life and lifestyle back, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Mr. Gupta, you're up next.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question. I did watch Max live stream when it was happening. So see, like for me, I came from an environment where freedom was not given freely. So I have a very different perspective on this. I think for me, Canadian is somebody who stand up and says, "I'm proud to be a Canadian," irrespective of where they were born and where they came from. It's about putting Canada first, adopting Canadian values, our people, and an interest. In my perspective, being a Canadian means nothing external gets in your way of your loyalty to Canada. That's the way. No foreign agendas, no outside pressures. For you, for me as a Canadian, Canada, what matters, right? This is my home. Like I boil, and when I say, when I think about what are the Canadian values that make somebody Canadian is, it's freedom, fairness, and respect. Freedom means you're free to live your life. I have seen the other side of the coin. I do not want to be in that environment. I really like this. This is I want freedom, like freedom to chase my goals, to be who I am, and without worrying about somebody telling me what that means. Fairness, everybody knows everybody gets a fair shot, and respect, everybody deserves respect. And for me, Canadian also being a Canadian also means is taking care of your own, standing up for your own. It's not a charity, it's a duty. Like that's what we need to feel. And once you start feeling that, I think you can start thinking about yourself being a Canadian. I think there is another aspect of that is, if somebody tries to trample those values, you need to be able to stand up and put yourself on the line, whether and it could be in any shape or form. And that's what, to me, is what is being Canadian. Now, what is a Canadian dream? And Canadian dream for me is when you can live your life on your terms. You want to start a business, raise a family, be yourself, without anybody boxing you in. You need to, you can have a shot at, if you work hard, you have a shot at a good job, a safe home, healthcare when you need it. Like we don't want handouts. We want a system that, works for everybody and says, we got your back. That's what I think the Canadian dream is. And that's what I'm here to help, protect as a PPC candidate.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. I had a follow-up question, but let's go on to the next question. I want to gauge how we do for time. Maybe later I'll ask. So the next question is going to go to you, Mr. Watson, to start. Mark Carney recently made a statement that Trump's tariffs are to blame for the bad economy, but economic misery has been around for quite a while. Why do you think our economy is so bad, and what could the People's Party do to fix it?
Well, everything is so bad right now because the government has done this. They are the ones who's responsible for it, not Mr. Trump. The president in the U.S. is trying to make it things better for his country. I believe that very strongly, actually. And if we had been taking care of our own business in this country for even half of the last 10 years, we would not be in this position that we're in right now. If we're going to go forward and we're going to try and fix this, we need to make major changes to many areas, not the least of which is going to be taxation and finance. We need to stimulate more business interest in the country so that not only do we create more business here right now, but we need to stimulate that interest so that we have future interest as well. And it would be nice to get a great deal of interest from other countries as well, much as what Mr. Trump is doing, except rather than doing it by, shall we call it, force, using tariffs to adjust people's attitudes, shall we call it, from outside his country. I would suggest that we go ahead and do it by making it more advantageous for our people to do things first and foremost, and then after that, look at attracting businesses from outside the country. Part of that would be taking advantage of our energy, our pipelines, everything like that. We need to do other things as well. There's no reason at all why we shouldn't be growing a substantial amount of our own food in this country. Right now, we depend on the U.S. for a great deal of the food that we have, and we import so much of it. It's absolutely unbelievable. Not only from the U.S., but we import a great deal from Chile and New Zealand and South Africa, Mexico, virtually every place in the world, except we don't try and stimulate the interests of our own farmers, our own people. They actually put in laws and regulations in many places to make people not want to grow their own. And this is absolutely absurd. I have no idea why anybody could even think of doing that to their own country. But this is the state of liberals. It wasn't just them. The NDP was also a part of that whole bad thing that happened for many years already. And we need to fix that. But it's not going to get fixed in one day or 1 week, or even, I don't even think it's going to get fixed in 1 year. We have to work at it. And that means starting with the people themselves, convincing them that they need to do more for themselves, convincing them that they need to create businesses, that they need to fight back against the government in any way that they can. And that starts with voting a government in that is there for them. And obviously from what, obviously, I'll just finish it off quick. Obviously, from that point, it's the PPC is the one who's going to help them do that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Watson. Sorry, I had to jump in there. We'll go to you next, Mr. Gupta.
Okay, I was actually stitching up a video which I didn't get a chance to finish, where Mr. Carney during the leadership debate said our economy has been weak for a long time. Then once he got elected, went to Europe, he said our economy is very strong and stronger than the US. And then he came back to Canada and was telling people that our economy, after 2 days, 2 days after the Europe trip, our economy is weak because of the tariffs. So I don't trust anything that Mr. Carney is saying, and I don't think anybody should, because they should look at the track record. Like, I believe in the saying, when somebody tells you who they are, you should believe them. And we need to believe who Mark Carney is, rather than look at his history and believe him what he has done. Now, why is Canada weak? Like, I'll use kind of more data points that I had a chance to kind of look up. In Canada, our productivity has stalled. Real GDP per person has been lingering around $58,000 per person since 2014. It hasn't moved. So we as Canadians haven't been making more. More wealth is not being distributed to Canadians. Government business investment, which everybody is talking about, but not in the level of detail they should be talking about. Per worker investment into business is down 20%. And that's really due to taxes and red tape. Government spending, in my perspective, is out of control. From 2014 to now, our spending increased from $256 billion to $453 billion. That's a 75% increase in about 10 years. Our youth unemployment rate is highest because we have been bringing a lot of foreign workers that are competing with our youth, and we haven't seen this level of youth unemployment in 40 years. Like, we've been on a slow downward spiral for a long time. That's why we are suffering. Now, from a PPC perspective, how we would fix this, I would talk about 3 or 4 things. The first is slash spending. Like, in my home, if I make $1,000, I cannot spend $2,000. It's simple math. But for some people, the budget balances itself. For me, it doesn't. So I would look at just really looking at slashing spending, smaller government, and kind of redirect that cash into our healthcare, business, and education, make them world class again. I think we need to start taking care of our people and start educating our children with the best education in the world, so that they can grow up to start businesses and companies in Canada. The second is tapping into our resources. Everybody knows we are a resource rich country. Energy is our strength. We are not utilizing it right now. Oil, gas, LNG. We need to build pipelines, terminals, export it. And we have a choke point with the US right now that we have artificially kind of levied on ourselves. We need to take that choke point out and export it to other places in the world. Like, it's a gold mine that we are sitting on, but that could create jobs, drive growth.
Real quick, the third point.
Oh yeah, third point is immigration. Cut immigration, like bring vetted immigration, and make sure they're not competing with our workers and undercutting our wages. Like, that's what I would say is, once we do that, we can balance the budget and cut taxes for everybody.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gupta. I hate being the bad guy to keep you guys in time. Bridget Hall, I see your comment, but we have preset questions, so we're going to stick to those. Mr. Quinlan, you're next. You were really short in your previous answer, so I'll give you a little bit more latitude if you want to go a little longer. Go ahead.
I'll see if I can do it in less time. Well, I would say that Trump's moniker of the God Emperor is well served. He was able to travel back in time and ruin the Canadian economy before he was elected. According to Mark Carney, we should take him absolutely at his word. Trump's amazing. But then at the same time, what is, the Liberal Party going to do? They keep driving us down the economy. It's been going down on the slide for a while. And obviously, what the party is doing isn't working. So, of course, the solution that they have is to double down and stick with Liberal. It's just not going to work. What the PPC can do is help to incentivize and quite literally steal from Trump's playbook to start manufacturing things here. In my garage, I have 2 storage cabinets that I use for holding tools, made in Canada. I bought it at an auction from people who probably bought it sometime in the 70s. I have a table downstairs, made in Canada. We used to have the Lippert Furniture Company in Kitchener many, many years ago, where furniture like tables and chairs and all sorts of other things were handmade, machine made in a factory here. We used to make things. Right now, our exports are oil, canola, wheat, and bureaucracy, it seems. So what we can start doing is incentivizing, hey, let's start actually building stuff. Do what Trump says. If you take a look at a recent DeWalt drill out of Home Depot, made in America. So we need to start doing made in Canada and stop, fiddling around with this financialization of our economy, because even Trump can see that it's going to doom us, quite literally. So that's what we can do.
Thank you very much, Mr. Quinlan. We're going to go to the third question, and we'll start with you, Mr. Gupta, if I can figure out which one was the third one. Here we go. A lot of Canadians are choosing to go to the States to seek medical attention due to the poor access to healthcare. What do you think is the root cause of our crumbling healthcare system? My words. And how can the People's Party remedy that?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, and I've thought about it for a long time. I would say, I'm not an expert, but here is what I think what's happening in our system. The root cause is for our Canadian healthcare crisis is basically a mix of underfunding, severe underfunding, ineffective management of our resources that is being put into healthcare, and there is, and this might be contentious, a lack of flexibility in the system. So and from a flexibility standpoint, I say, what are the other options available rather than, what's available in Canada right now. I've talked to many. I have some doctors who are in my friend circle. They always complain about, too much workload with not enough payout for them. I know at least three family doctors in Brampton, in my circle, who want to close their practice and want to leave just because our healthcare is severely underfunded, even when there is a shortage of doctors. So I think that's kind of really driving what's happening with our healthcare. What I think we should be doing, or from a PPC perspective, is I think provide a little bit more control to provinces to experiment with other options. But I think it's easy to say. I think it can only be done if we fix the underlying cause, which is underfunding. I think we have to start cleaning the house, start cutting spending in areas, external causes, and start diverting funds to hospitals and healthcare, and bringing doctors bringing more doctors on board. I'm also interested in, I'm also thinking about we should add some medical schools to increase number of students interested in learning, becoming doctors. I think that should help us a lot. Now, I will just put one personal perspective. I've done a lot of these reports around ineffective management and spending. If I understand correctly, we spend about $250 billion on healthcare right now. I did a study in 2016 for one of the provinces, I won't say which one, but we were able to show them that with some changes in their process of procurement and technology, like really using new technology that's available, they could cut 20% of procurement costs right away. I think our government have a lot of inundated processes and systems that need to be fixed, but there is no will at the government, at least in my province, to do that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gupta. We'll go to you, Mr. Quinlan.
For the most part, for healthcare, all of the problems here, nothing is new. It's been here for over the last 30 years. And back in the 90s, we used to call it the brain drain, where U.S. was poaching doctors away from Canada. But the simple math is they just are going to make a lot more money there. And if you have a highly priced skill set, you should move to wherever you can get the most money for it. I mean, that's kind of what the whole thing is. Everyone wants to buy the cheapest car, the cheapest thing, the cheapest that. Guess what? It's also the case where you want to get paid the most doing your job. Nobody says, I want to go, work at X ever company and take a 10% pay cut. So in the case of here what we can do right now is simply cut the foreign aid and do a whole lot of cuts and put in like 1,000 MRIs across the country. If you have a full body MRI, you can catch all sorts of cancers years, if not a decade before that happens. And these machines, yes, there's big requirements on them, but they're what? $10, $20 million. So $10 billion, that buys a lot of MRI machines. And they can operate 24/7, which means a lot of medical problems can be caught at such an early stage. It doesn't cost $250 billion a year in healthcare. It can drop down a whole lot. You're not treating stage 4 cancers or stage 3 cancers. You're treating stage 1 or even before that. And yeah, it's the crumbling situation that we have right now. It's by design. It's not an accident.
Thank you, Mr. Quinlan. Wrapping it up, Mr. Watson, go ahead.
Well, the healthcare system is what it is, and as Nathan said, that this has been the way it is for many, many years. I've read a number of documents, and I've seen a number of videos regarding this from all different levels, and My personal feeling is that the majority of our healthcare costs right now or not the majority, but the lion's share of it has been going towards too much administrative costs. Many of those administrative costs are in basically just paper pushing, refiling, filing documents on a extremely accelerated basis. So they need staff to take care of things more and more and more. If we changed our healthcare system, as Max is saying, to maybe something that is more of a mixed care health system, where it has a mixture of private and public systems in there, and set up our financing systems so that the provinces are more responsible for what they do and how they do it, and try and put in incentives for them to reduce the administrative costs. I think we could save in the neighborhood of at least 25 or 30% right off the top from that alone. Then if we do things like what Nathan was saying, maybe trying to catch things at an earlier date, I think we could save a lot more money in that way as well. Our healthcare system right now, we're one of the most expensive healthcare systems because we put the money into it, but we don't get the value out of it. The value has to come from the people who are providing it and from the governments. It's not supposed to come from the people. The people have nothing to do with it. They are the ones who are getting ill and they have to be treated. So we have to do something for them. And the biggest thing we could do is reduce taxes, allow more of that money to be flowed into the healthcare parts through the provincial governments. Take a whole level of bureaucracy out of the situation by allowing things like the GST or other of these, I'll call them petty taxes. They're not really petty because they earn the government right now billions of dollars. But if we use that money and made it an incentive for the provinces to get some of it, would be to reduce their administrative costs or the administrative costs for the doctors. The doctors would be getting paid more, actually. The nurses would be getting paid more. We wouldn't have so much money going to administration, and we would be looking at things that are in a much better light for the long term. Doctors wouldn't want to be moving so quickly. They wouldn't want to be moving out of the country at all. We have people who come here from other countries because we are such a good country in many, many ways. Now that would just make it that much better. So that in essence, it's basically reduce taxes and reduce the bureaucracy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Watson. Mr. Quinlan?
I have one small correction. I'm wrong. An MRI machine is between $250,000 to $500,000 at blockimaging.com. And according to Grok, the latest state-of-the-art machine is between $1 and $3 million. That's it.
If you DM me the link to that, we can put it in the show notes in case anybody wants to buy it on Amazon.
Just take a look at Grok. How much does an MRI machine cost? Grok is wonderful.
And that's just probably list price.
The list price, yeah. Well, we can get a better deal if we buy in bulk. So I guess we're question 4, Mr. Quinlan was going to go to you. Okay, let's see the fourth question. There's only 4 questions. Did I miss one? PBT, Mark Carney, a lot of candidates. All right, maybe I can't count. There is a heightened sense of anxiety, first lingering from the desire to get Trudeau out and now to keep Carney out. What is it that the People's Party could do better than the Conservative Party? Mr. Quinlan.
Everything. Like, seriously, think about it. Look at the Conservative platform. Look at ours. Everything.
All right. I guess it's on to you, Mr. Watson.
Well, actually, I think there are a number of things. One of the things would be, as Nathan said, everything. But to be more realistic, no one is going to do everything better than anybody, because as soon as one person tries, they're going to try and match you with things. Just as they've tried to take our policies and many of our slogans and so on, that sort of thing. The biggest thing that I think we could do to prove that we are better is just look at the way the party system is run. They say in the Conservative Party that they have the ability to do free votes. Yet if anybody goes and happens to take a look, very rarely is that ever something that actually takes place. Whereas within our party, it is something that we preached for a number of years already. And I believe that should we be in government, we would be able to do free votes. Free votes are a very, very important thing because we're supposed to answer to the people that we're being elected by. If we don't answer to them, well, what good is it for them to vote for us? In my riding specifically, I've had a lot of people complain that the incumbent does not answer to them, refuses to answer to them, in fact, in many shapes, ways, and forms. I myself have sent at least 5 communications to him in the last 5 years, and I've received 0 replies. So, you know, that alone is something that I think is very important to people. If we get in with 1, 2, 5, 10, even 50 MPs, it doesn't mean anything if we're not responsible to the people who put us in that position. My promise always has been when I talk to people is that I may not be able to do a lot at any one point in time, depending on what the circumstances are, but I will answer to you. I will try my best to do what you would like to see. And at this point in time, I can't say any more. But we are better at just about everything than the Conservatives, I believe, as well.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. We're going to go to Mr. Gupta. Nah, Mr. Quinlan, we'll come back to you if you want to, flesh out your answer anymore. I appreciate a good sense of humor, though. Mr. Gupta, go ahead.
I actually like Nathan's answer. Everything. I believe in that. Absolutely. Unfortunately, we have, with Trudeau leaving and Carney stepping in, we have traded in an elite for another elite, right? Like they don't care about Canada. They actually don't care about even moral values. People who are listening, you should go read Mark Carney's book, Values. There are things that I can't say on a live stream that I feel ashamed to say that that person is thinking, how he thinks, and how he thinks everything, including your morals, should be commoditized. Now, what can PPC do? PPC do better than the Conservatives? I think, Conservatives, Mr. Pierre Poilievre, very eloquent. He has his game on. He's scripted. He is polished. But I think they're playing safe. They're playing safe. They are playing to the ethos that, hey, that will appease everybody. I think this is where PPC can do better is, we can, we have the guts to actually do the right thing, to keep pushing for the right thing, for the principles and morals that we stand for. A simple thing as accountability and responsibility, I think should be the core tenet of government. I wish I could figure out a way to build a scorecard for every politician that every citizen can look at every month or every week and say what they're doing for you. Like they need to be accountable to you. I think PPC, because we have the guts and we want to, we stand for our principles and morals, we can do everything better than the Conservatives. I truly believe that.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. Mr. Quinlan, you don't have to if you want more time.
Well, I think Pierre Poilievre has proven that the PPC is going to do or can do everything better. I mean, you just have to take a look at the polling numbers. What politician gets his party all the way up and then tanks it 20, 30 points? Like just boom. Clearly he's not doing things. And he keeps stealing our policies and stealing our values. But in 20 days, he could be talking about and insisting upon zero immigration and all sorts of other things. You might as well just take the entire platform, right? It's the case of, at that point, can we finally say everything?
Thank you, Mr. Quinlan. I was giggling when you said I wasn't laughing at you. The taking the entire platform one was what I was laughing at. So I'm clearly an idiot. I thought there were 5 questions, but there's only 4, so I miscalculated. So let's go to audience questions. Mr. Watson, Bridget Hall asks a simple yet difficult question. How do we stop the hatred towards Donald Trump?
I think we stop the hatred towards Donald Trump by actually looking at what it is that he's trying to accomplish. He's trying to accomplish something for his country I believe he does want some of our resources, and he does want some of our water, and he probably wants some of our businesses to go there as well. But that's nothing that any country doesn't want. They want to have the best for their people. At least they should want to have the best for their people. Having the best for their people is what is driving him ahead forward with everything, with his Doge, with his cutback in the bureaucracy, cutback in foreign aid, everything. And we should have been, and we should be doing some of the similar things. If we would just try and make the point clear that these problems are not Donald Trump's problems. These problems are our government's problems. They are the ones who created it. If Trudeau hadn't started talking about the 51st state, I don't believe he would be talking about it at all. He brought it up, I think, merely as a joke at first, and then Trudeau, he decided that this was something that we couldn't stand for at all. But then shortly afterwards, when he got back to Canada, he realized that, hey, this is going to be a platform that we can use to fight against. And so that's what it's become. It's become liberals against and trying to deflect and push all the blame for everything that the liberals and the NDP have been responsible for the last, at least for the last 5 years, for sure. They've been trying to push it on Mr. Trump and the US. And I don't believe that's where it comes from at all. It comes from ourselves, not the everyday person like you and I, but it comes from people at the government level. They have done this to us. They are the ones who have exacerbated it by continuing on with the same sort of rhetoric that they've been using. We need to change that, and we need to move forward. If we just start to think literally that what would be the best for Canada, well, that's exactly what he's trying to do. So I don't think it's his fault at all.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Mr. Gupta.
Yeah, I think, to stop the hatred, we got to stop living in the echo chambers of our mainstream media. Like, this is all just, mainstream media trying to prop up the messaging of our government because they think this is an opportunity to use it to propel their own statuses. It's not about, it's not really about defending Canada against Trump. Like, that's not what they're doing. They haven't done any action. Like, nothing has happened. Like, if they were really serious about it, they would have done something. I don't know what they've done. Like, they've only taxed us more. Like, how does that help Canada? I don't understand it. Like, if your policy is, hey, somebody is going to stop doing business with us, let's tax our citizen. Like, how does that work? I don't understand. Like, I think the thing is, people need to get out of echo chambers. Like, mainstream media, unfortunately, my life became more peaceful when I stopped following it. I think we need to do that and understand diplomats need to do diplomacy, right? But we haven't been doing diplomacy for a long time. I think common sense, real common sense and diplomacy has kind of left the room, like left the chat room a long time ago in Canadian politics. We just need to be diplomatic, have a conversation. It's like any other deal in your life. You are working with the tradespeople. You talk what you want. We discuss, hey, what it's going to be. We talk about the terms and the contracts, and we get to a deal. That's what needs to be done. But somebody needs to step up. But I think what's really happening is they are not doing it because they want to use this movement to scare Canadians into thinking they're vulnerable and get elected. That's all it is.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. Just add some humor to this chat. With the way your camera is angled and the fact that I'm running on zero sleep and I haven't eaten anything all day, I'm getting like vertigo. It's something about the camera angle in the corners,
Yeah.
but it's all
That's
good.
okay.
Mr. Quinlan, did you see it too?
A little bit, yeah. But as to stopping Trump, I mean, the simple point is just to remind people that Trump's ask was secure the border, treat us fairly. I mean, that's realistically pretty simple things about being a good neighbor as a country, right? Because the simple thing is that, yes, we penalize U.S. products. We have tariffs already built in. We do to them. If anyone who's ever bought anything from the U.S., you've had to pay duty on the way in. Books in some cases, and other tools and stuff, and graphics cards. It's a common practice. So the simple thing is he just wants us to be a good neighbor. right? And the attitude of the Liberal Party and the NDP and the mayor of Toronto is, analogous to your dog is pooping on your neighbor's lawn, and they've asked you to stop it, or they're going to start having the city ticket you and fine you. And your solution is elbows up, do the chicken dance, and be brave. And if you actually watch the recent video clips of Olivia Chow's rally, it's they're doing the chicken dance. And that's not going to help anything. Treat everyone fairly.
Is
Or
this
as they would
elbows up?
say, yeah. Or as they would say, equity. He's asking for equity, which is apply the same rule to everyone, right? Or make things even. So
I could have gone the entire day without hearing Olivia Chow's name mentioned. Let me.
chicken dance. Look it up. Play it.
You're never welcome here again, Mr. Quinlan. Let me ask you. We'll go with you, Mr. Quinlan, and I'm going to ask you a devil's advocate question. So assume that I'm, left of center voter. This was Donald Trump's doing. He disrespected our he disrespected our prime minister by calling him a governor. He has no sense of diplomacy. He did the same thing to President Zelensky. The United States has for a very long time tried to exploit our resources. They are the main driver of our brain drain. We have a right to be scared, and we are not Americans. We don't believe in Second Amendment. We don't believe in racism. We don't believe in deporting people because of their skin color. Who are you to side with them over your own country? Go ahead, sir.
How exactly do you have a choice? The simple fact is, United States and Canada were to go to war, the war would be over in less than a week. We would not even be able to put up the resistance that Ukraine has managed to do. We wouldn't be able to even post the resistance that Iraq has been able to do. We literally have no choice. Trump is playing the absolute most docile game imaginable in human civilization. It is extremely easy. There's too many avenues for attack if he was to get nasty. You think the brain drain's bad now. What happens when he offers 10 million Canadian citizens that are employed or over a certain net worth green cards? What's going to happen? Like, really, what do you think is going to happen? Things are going to shift really radically. He could literally pillage the population, because what is the country? The people. And to be even more brutal, are Texans Texans or Texans American? Texans will tell you they're Texans. The same is going to be true for many other certain states. A Montanan is a Montanan, an American on weekends or whenever it feels like it, but they're Montanans. So the brutal, honest truth is, if Canada was a 51st state, we'd still be Canadians. I know we're not supposed to be saying that, but we can be conquered quickly. We can be devastated economically. And, this is literally the case of let's not beat around and try to puff up our chests and imagine things that aren't there. It's the case where it's time to be the adults in the room and say, if we're going to do this, perhaps we should be a better neighbor. That does not need to be invaded because we're willing to trade with everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Quinlan. Let's go to you, Mr. Watson. Same hypothetical question.
The way you position the question, it makes it seem as if we actually have a choice. And Nathan was right. We don't really have a choice in any of this. Our position is one, it's basically untenable for us because we cannot do much. We can't fight them on a financial basis. We don't have the resources that way. We can't fight them on a business basis because they have far more business than we have. We can't fight them on any side. We have no chance. We have no chance of winning against them. So why are we trying to win? Why don't we try to appease their basic abilities or the things that they want, like protecting the border from on their side? And I think that's because our current government and the government for a long time has been captured both by the international side of things, the globalists or the elitists, and they've also been captured by the cartels. A recent report that I was reading and listening to also says that we have over 4,000 criminal cartels in this country, amounting to over 150,000 individuals in there. And I would hazard to say that the current government is amongst those cartels.
I liked how you ended that. Thanks, Mr. Watson. Mr. Gupta, that's a hard act to follow. What do you got?
It is, and these guys have done a really good job in answering that. Like, I think I would ask you, as the liberal left, what has government done for you that that you really care about? Our housing costs are increasing. Our inflation is increasing. The real inflation, not what's published in the newspaper. We don't, job growth is slowing down. We are all getting poorer. Is that what we want to save? Is that the government that we want? No. I went out for signatures today. I talked to a gentleman, and he started describing to me, he's getting this pension and this other thing from his job, and he still can't survive, right? Is this what we want for people who have worked all their lives in Canada? Like, I came from a different country. This is not, I don't want to see this, right? Now, this is our doing. We have created a system which is so dependent on the US, and we can't escape it. Even if we start untangling all of that today, if we really wanted to do it, it would probably take 10 to 20 years, or maybe even more, to do that. Like, we need to have, we need to build pipelines. We need to have other export channels. We need to have other great relationships with other countries. It's going to take time. So, like these gentlemen said, right now we don't have a choice. I think right now we need diplomacy. We need to work with the country that is the greatest superpower in the world. They're one company, the largest company, net worth is more than our GDP, right? Like, it's not comparable. Kids, I talk to so many kids. My niece wants to become a doctor. She will become a doctor, and her first choice is to go to the US. I talk to engineering school kids. When they graduate, they want to go to the US. Why? Why do they want to go to the US? Because it provides opportunity. So, Canada is worth saving, but I think we need to do a little bit more than just keep elbows up and keep saying elbows up, and actually do something to make sure these people want to live in Canada. Like, we don't need to survive. We need to thrive. That's what we need to get to. And that's my perspective on that.
All right, thank you.
If I could, I'd like to say one more thing, is that I'm really getting tired of both the Liberals now and the Conservatives, as well as the NDP and the Greens. They all seem to be taking on all these slogans. And instead of taking on slogans, I think everyone in this country needs to start to focus on what the actual issues are and what we can do to solve our own issues, instead of trying to blame it on others all the time.
No, that's a good point. What do we got? We got 12 minutes left. I kind of want to ask you guys, this is unscripted, but I want to ask you a tough question. And I guess, Mr. Gupta, it's your turn to go first. In the US, Donald Trump, he made change by going through the party. He could have created his own party, but he decided to go through the party. What do you say to lowercase c conservatives who say, why you should not be going through the People's Party by splitting the vote? Why did you not choose to go through the Conservative Party?
It's a tough question, I would say, because I would probably think and come up with a better answer. But I think US is a very different system than what Canada is. In Canada, the party leader and the prime minister has the absolute power to silence their caucus. They cannot do anything without them. They can kick them out of the caucus, and they can they render them ineffective. So all of the people, in the government have to fall in line with their party leader. The US system is a little bit different, right? The US system allows democratic ideas to, through their senators and House representatives, to kind of flow into the system, and it's a true two-step system, right? That all the decisions go through. In Canada, we have the parliament, and we have anointed senators that actually don't do anything for us. Like, I don't know what they're doing, other than just following the lead of the person who installed them and gave them lifelong appointees. I think that's the basic difference. So for Trump, choosing to use the platform of Republicans and turning it against them, he was able to do that because he was talking things that people wanted to say but couldn't say before, and Trump became their voice, right? He took that opportunity and to turn that party inside out, and kudos to him or not to him. That's in my perspective, I think that's what's displaying in US politics, and that's why he did that. Why we won't do that? Because if let's say people are thinking, hey, we should join the conservatives, we'll have to fall in the line. I don't want to fall in the line. That's not what I'm standing up for. I would have then decided to run for CPC and taken a chance. I may not have gotten a nomination, but I am trying to stand up for principles and morals. That is not possible with conservatives, in my opinion. I have talked to their candidates who were trying to get nominated, and they are expected to stay silent. And being silent is not going to get us anywhere. We don't want dictators, we want democracy. And if you go with the established parties, I think it's more of a dictatorship model than a democratic model.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. Ms. Bradburn, I see you down there in the green room or whatever it's called. Enjoy the show. We're almost done, and then we'll bring you up for the second panel. Mr. Quinlan, same question. I guess you're better prepared for this one. Go ahead.
First off, if we're talking about a politician doing as Trump did, not possible. There has not been, or in hundreds of years, a politician that would be able to do what Trump has done. The simple fact is his particular skill set, his powers of persuasion, his way of handling people, it's literally unheard of. Scott Adams has said that powers of persuasion of Trump is top notch, if not best in the world. So in the case of myself or a political party, Ruby Dalla is the case in point of why I would not want to run for an existing sister party or one of the major parties, because for the simple reason of we don't live in a democracy. It was proven during the Liberal run through. And if you take a look at some people I've talked to might make the same claim about the NDP with the their situation, but we all saw it. We saw mysteriously people voting in the Liberal Party leadership and having all of their votes just vaporized, no longer count. We had Liberal candidates getting booted out for who knows why, and then we had this all sorts of interesting things happening there which will never be talked about, never investigated. But we have a democracy of a democratic system with the PM that happens to have been signing things that are technically he can't. So it's the case where for the existing political party systems, the rot is too deep. And there is no one who is going to have the skill set to be able to fix them.
I just wanted to add, I concur with him. Over the last 4 weeks, I have learned of things I cannot say in public, but I will share over a beverage. The rot is really, really deep. It angered me and more so disappointed me that this is happening in Canada. I came from India. I left India like 25 years ago, but I did not expect our political system to be this corrupt. It is very corrupt, guys. It is very, very corrupt. Beyond my imagination, what I've learned in the last 5-6 weeks.
Yeah, it's a hell of a thing realizing that. Mr. Enns, I see you down there. We'll bring you up shortly. Mr. Watson, go ahead. You're last.
Well, generally speaking, I've had quite a few people who have mentioned this whole vote splitting thing. And really, it's, I guess what you'd call it is non sequitur. It really doesn't mean a thing. You have the ability to vote who you have the ability to vote for. And that's called democracy. I mean, that's what we do. That's what we have. If you don't want to vote for someone who has values and beliefs similar to your own, well, then you're not ever going to be happy. Never. You cannot be happy if you don't vote for someone who has similar the same. It's tough to get the same, but similar values and beliefs. As long as you do that, you'll always be happy with who you vote for, even if they don't get elected. And the problem is right now is that even should the Conservatives get in as the say a minority government, which is more likely what is it's looking like now, if they get in as a government at all, the only chance they have of really passing anything is by having someone like the PPC on their side. In the political system at this point in time, there's no one who's closer to them than we are. And we're not the same, but we are small c conservatives, whereas the Conservative Party are these large C conservatives. They believe in this party system, and that's why they go out for it. And as Amit said, we have really no choice in the system when you run for the Conservatives or the Liberals or any of the other parties, because they dictate everything you say and do. Maxime has allowed us to move forward, and he has said we're going to have free votes. We are able to do that. Does he want us to go along with some of our party platforms and stuff? Of course, but we're all made well aware of what those party platforms and what those positions are well before we sign on to be a nominated candidate. And so we know what's going in. Why would we disagree with it after the fact? Honestly, why would it happen in any party anywhere? You know what's going to happen, so why are you trying to fight it and trying to act like it's a big crime after the fact? No, vote splitting is not real. It's in people's minds. You need to forget about it. You need to vote for the people you believe in. Look for those people, those candidates in your riding. Forget about names of party leaders. Forget about party names even. Look at the people themselves. Try and find out or figure out what their values, what their beliefs are. I don't care who they are, honestly. Max has said it himself. He would rather have you not voting for the PPC if your values and beliefs don't match up with ours. Have your values and beliefs dictate who you vote for. Then you're performing a proper form of democracy. The biggest thing we need to worry about in this whole country right now is we need to increase our voting percentage. In the last election, we only had a 58.2% voting percentage. That's absurd. That's ridiculous. We need to have that at least in the 70s. Our highest ever, I believe, is 72%. If we could get to 75% voting percentage, we would have a much fairer marketplace, period, overall, because you have a lot more people talking and a lot more people voting for the people they think is right and the right way to go.
David, could you quickly, we got to wrap this up. Could you quickly tell us your riding and how volunteers can get a hold of you?
My riding is Prince George, Peace River, Northern Rockies. We are the third largest riding in Canada. And you can get a hold of me through that riding website at pgprnr.site, S-I-T-E. And there's all sorts of connections on there to the National Party headquarters, to a donation channel, to a membership channel, all those things and more. You can read many articles that I myself have written, and you can watch videos of Max and other videos that I've even created.
Amit, you're up next.
Yes, you can find me on People's Party of Canada candidate page. If you want to reach out to me, I think the best way right now is through either X, Amit Gupta PPC, or email me, my first name dot last name, amit.gupta@teamppc.ca.
Thank you very much. Nathan, round it up, please.
Nathan Quinlan, Mississauga Malton. You can look at the doobly-doo down there for the Twitter/X address, Nathan Quinlan Nathan-Quinlan.ca. I've got some other aliases there that work too. But you can also go to nathan.quinlan@teamppc.ca, but ideally these two work the best.
So I thought you guys did really good, and you handled that last question really well. I don't think I could have handled it well. So thank you very much. I'm gonna drop you guys down. You're welcome to stay if you want. You can leave and get back to your lives. I'm gonna bring up the next panel. So thank you very much, and best of luck on your campaign, gentlemen.
Bye now.
Thanks, Payman.
Bye. Bye, David. Bye, Amit. Bye, Nathan. Remove. remove, and get ready. Miss Bradburn, how's it going?
I'm really well. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good. And Mr. Is it Enns? Am I pronouncing it right?
Ends, yeah, that's correct.
Mr. Enns, how's it going?
I'm well. How are you, Payman?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm feeling very small today. That's a dad joke. I look like half the size of you. How do I make this bigger? I can't. Chris, you kind of froze there. Okay, it's not that you kind of froze. You completely froze. At least it's not an unflattering pose. How are you doing, Lisa?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. This is my third or fourth week with the party, so learning a lot, getting to know folks, really diving into the policies, and enjoying engaging with my constituents.
It's good to hear. Chris, we had some connection issues. Can you see us, hear us? Kamloops, Thompson, Nicola. Maybe he's on a bad Starlink connection.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if we can get him back. And it seems like we have him for maybe 3 seconds. If not, we have to drop him and it'll just be you and me.
Yeah.
I guess we could get started. Chris, we keep losing you. How's your connection?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure how. Does the.
Oh, so close. Yeah, Lisa, can you tell us what riding are you running in? Tell us a little about yourself and how do the audience members get a hold of you if they want to volunteer?
Yeah, sure. Well, we'll start with the riding. So I'm with Northumberland Clark. We're kind of in the mid-central Ontario. Peterborough is above us.
Keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're a very large territory. It's quite rural, mainly has a lot of towns, villages, and hamlets. Really beautiful part of Ontario. The best way that people can get in touch with me would be, my X handle below at Lisa Bradburn PPC, and good old email. So lisa.bradburn@teamppc.ca.
Thank you very much. Chris, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, let's try to see if we can make this work. Same question to you. Obviously, your name, your riding, and if all the audience wants to get a hold of you and volunteer, how do they do that?
Yeah, my name's Chris Enns. I'm in Kamloops, Thompson, Nicola in central British Columbia. My X handle is @_Chris Enns. And I've got a Facebook page as well, which is easy to find. Just look Chris Enns Candy and add in the riding info. And you can email me at chris.enns@teamppc.ca.
Okay. I guess we can get started. There was supposed to be a fourth or a third panelist, but I don't know what happened. Maybe the election got the better of him. So we don't have to mute our mics, I guess. There's only 3 of us, but you're welcome to in case you accidentally sneeze or something happens. Bang your knee on the table. And there's no real restriction to keep your answers short, I guess, because there's only 2 of you. But, if you talk for too long, you're going to lose the audience. So any questions before we get started?
No, I think this is straightforward. Saw a little bit of your last excerpt, so it makes sense.
Yeah, well, you cheated there. you got some of the answers. Okay, here we go. We're going to start with Miss Bradburn first. The first question to you, on the PBT podcast, Max was recently asked what it means to be a Canadian. What do you think it means to be a Canadian? And asked another way, what is the Canadian dream?
Yeah, this is a 2-part question. So for me personally, I think being Canadian really means just embracing that shared identity rooted in freedom, fairness, and respect for others. It's pretty clear. I think it's about living in a country that values diversity without division. Where people from different backgrounds are welcomed, but where we have these core Canadian values like hard work, responsibility, and community. And when I think about the Canadian dream, which is a little bit of a different question, I always go back to, regardless of background, people can build a good life through hard work, personal responsibility, and opportunity. It's the dream of, owning a home, raising a family in a safe neighborhood, having access to, quality healthcare and education. I think it's really about having a government that serves the people and not the other way around.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Enns, same question. Take it away.
Yeah, I think a lot of our Canadian identity is based on being what we aren't. We see this all the time in the current anti-Americanism that goes back to Rick Mercer on This Hour is 22 Minutes, talking to Americans. We define ourselves by the big brother next door. And a lot of that is that, we could define America as hyper-capitalist. Canada is kind of a capitalist, socialist hybrid, a bit of a social safety net. But also it's historical and cultural. We have over 400 years of French settlers in Canada, and that is a cornerstone of Canadian culture. And they influenced the settling of the rest of Canada from the east to the west and create a myriad of different subcultures, different Métis and everything else. And I think that one of the other things is that anti-Americanism is that our founders looked to the South and they said, what's going on in America with their Indigenous peoples? We can't have that in Canada, And so they created the Indian Act, which, by today's standards is a terrible racist document. But they were trying to craft something that would protect people because what they saw going on down in the States was truly genocide. And, those kinds of things are what Canada, valuing life and making sure that everybody has, a fairly fair place to start, even if the ends aren't fair, I think is really important. And making sure that everybody's safe and that everybody can try to live to retirement with some semblance of dignity, whether it's through their health care, through social supports. Oh, and the second half of the question, what is the Canadian dream? The Canadian dream is to be able to own your own home, to have some children, raise them, send them off to a good university where you can get an education, where they can get an education. You can be proud of what your children have become, and you know that they're not going to get gunned down in some gun violence or some other kind of thing that we usually only see on the television of something happening somewhere else.
So I can take more, I have more latitude in asking follow-up questions since there's two of you. Ms. Bradburn, you used the phrase community. You said, to be a Canadian, you have a sense of community. Some people would argue, I would, but other people would as well, that that sense of community has fractured and it's starting to disappear. The family unit has gone away, and that's what led to the COVID heavy-handed measures. So if that's the case, and if that's what it means to be Canadian, does that mean that we are no longer Canadian? We are less Canadian than we were 20 years ago?
Oh, I think that we're still very much Canadian. We're defined by a geography, by borders. But at the end of the day, I'll get a little bit more personal here. I think just I'm a psychotherapist. I have my own private practice, so every day I'm listening to people in my community. And so it's almost like getting a pulse check of what's really going on and affecting ordinary Canadians. And I feel their yearning for community and being a part of something. And I think it really comes down to just slowing down and looking at people's humanity, looking at our neighbors. That's a part of being Canadian. It's not just taking care of ourselves, but also caring for our neighbors. And so I think a lot of that has to do with the internal desire to be a part of something larger, but then also bringing back that ability to care for others in a very meaningful way. And I think that is the fabric of our community.
Thank you, Ms. Bradburn. Mr. Enns, I have a tough follow-up question. Mr. Watson has asked you a simple one. I'll ask that simple one after the tough question. You mentioned, you alluded to gun violence, how we have less gun violence here than in America, or something to that effect. It's PPC policy to support, the right to defend one. It's basically a 2A for Canada, but the right to defend oneself, security of the person using a firearm. How do you reconcile those two, your criticisms of essentially 2A and the firearms policies for the PPC?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we look at current Canadian gun violence, it is largely conducted with firearms that aren't registered. We all have pros and cons about the firearms registry, but the people committing acts of violence and criminal acts are not people generally who have registered weapons, right? I think that in a situation like that, where they're bringing weapons in, they're being smuggled in, we have an entire port situation where, it's been highlighted by the Americans that our ports need better security. We've got fentanyl coming in, we've got weapons coming in, weapons coming over from the United States. So we need to tackle that issue. It's very hard to tackle. Taking guns away from criminals is very difficult. Taking guns away from law-abiding Canadians is fairly simple because they're already registered and we know where they are. I think that we need to let people make their own choices with regard to holding firearms, and that we need to let people defend themselves, because you hear all these stories about the RCMP being called and them saying we can't do anything, and so that's a real issue.
Thank you, Mr. Enns. Mr. Watson, I don't fully understand your second question. If you'd like me to ask that of Ms. Bradburn, please rephrase it. Mr. Enns, the question for Mr. Watson, follow-up, what can we actually do to make the Indian Act better?
Yeah, I think we need to go back to the drawing board. I think this is the 21st century. We need to have a real dialogue with First Nations groups. I'm not sure how, but we've had truth and reconciliation for how many years, and it's achieved nothing, right? It's achieved, a bunch of narratives spun, a bunch of, truth that is lacking in evidence about residential schools and what exactly happened at these locations. I think that just with the Indian Act, I think that First Nations would rather have real treaties. Some treaties exist, but I think that I know it's a massive can of worms, but I think that if we're going to ever get past this never-ending stage in our history, we need to have a real dialogue between adults about how we're going to go forward with Canada's First Peoples.
Ms. Bradburn, did you want to also jump in? You don't have to.
Yeah, I actually live on the side of an Indigenous reservation, so I like this topic very much. It's kind of near and dear to my heart. I think ultimately we have an opportunity as PPC candidates to, go to uncomfortable places. Maybe it's speaking with the chiefs of these tribes and really understanding the needs and aspirations of the people in our community. And I believe there's an opportunity as well to further develop our PPC policies around Native affairs. And so I think through that partnership, I think we could build kind of a national, improve our national policies in hand to hand with those in our community.
Thank you. And Ms. Bradburn, we'll go with you and then Mr. Enns. Mr. Watson, he's asking a question which is roughly, would Ms. Bradburn agree that if we vote with our values and beliefs, we would have a higher degree of community? I can clarify the question, but is that a question that you're comfortable answering? Or?
Yeah, I'm looking at it as well. I mean, I think for a long time we've heard the Liberal Party say, diversity is our strength. At least we certainly heard that in the corporate world quite a lot. And I don't always think that's true. I think that there's a sense of it's our unity. What commonalities do we have that can bring us together? Because if everyone is different, how are we going to talk the same language? I think that there does need to be some shared values and belief systems. Um, and I mean, that will vary from community to community or coast to coast. So, yeah, I think we do need to align with those that we believe in. And from there, we'll make a stronger party.
Mr. Enns?
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree at all. We need to find our common threads amongst each other as human beings, as Canadians, and work from there rather than trying to point out every single difference between every individual and every group of individuals. And yeah, that's how we're going to rebuild Canada from the situation that we find ourselves in today.
All right, so I'm going to ask one more unscripted, difficult question, and then we'll move back to the scripted questions. Miss Bradburn, you mentioned something to the effect of, we can't just think about ourselves; we have to think about our community and our neighbors. Mr. Enns, you mentioned something to the effect of, we are similar to America, but America's more capitalist. We're a little bit, more. I believe you used the word social capitalism, or something like that. Where would you say? And Mr. Enns, we'll go with you first on this one. Where would you say we should land? Like, how socialist should we be? I guess I can't any more delicate than that. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up believing in the Canadian social safety net. The idea that if someone's truly down on their luck or they have some kind of medical disability, that they should get some assistance. That's the way that our welfare system was designed after the Second World War, right? Things have changed since then. I don't think things like universal basic income are a positive step for a myriad of different reasons. At the same time, I don't think that we should be unregulated and allow industry to do whatever they want whenever they want. Usually environmental disasters and all sorts of other things happen. Bad workplace practices. Regulation is important to a certain extent, but after that extent, it's like we need to let people be people. We need to let them sort themselves out. We can't have different levels of governments and other forms of regulatory bodies come in and be parental across all of society. It's tape. No one can get anything done. And those who do want to get things done are going to leave for greener pastures. And then we're going to have business leaving the country. Workers are going to lose jobs. And then no one's going to be able to actually create enough taxes to pay for any of the social safety net things that we've all taken for granted until the present.
Thank you, Mr. Enns. Ms. Bradburn?
Well, I think that we're already seeing people leave in droves. I don't remember the exact statistic, but there seems to be a bit of an exodus happening out of Ontario. And I think that ultimately we're losing our entrepreneurs, we're losing innovation. So I like what you said, Chris. I think that we really have to make sure as a party that our policies endorse deregulation. I think over the last 8 years, there's just been an enormous amount of red tape. We really have to kind of do a bit of a purge or a cleanse and sort of reevaluate, well, what wins can we make here? How can we attract people to come back? How can we make sure that those our great innovators of the day can stay in Canada? I think that's super important. So yeah, I think part of our policies have to entice those to come back.
I thought those were two great answers. Thank you. We're going to move on to the next question. So I think we'll go with Mr. Enns first this time around. Mark Carney recently made a statement that Trump's tariffs are to blame for the bad economy, but economic misery has been around for quite a while. Why do you think that our economy is so bad? My words. And what could the People's Party do to fix that?
Yeah, well, I think the economy is bad for a lot of the reasons that both Ms. Bradburn and I just touched upon, right? Overregulation. It doesn't create an environment where people want to push to continue being prosperous, to make more money, to make more jobs, to grow. You need a little bit of a spark, and Canada is just not providing that for a lot of business owners. I think that 5 times in the money supply during COVID was a massive mistake. There's just too many dollars in the market. They haven't been able to pull them all out. We have massive inflation. So Trump's tariffs, I mean, that's just an excuse at the end of the day. Trump's tariffs, I mean, they haven't even really hit. It's mostly just been a threat to get our own house in order, and a good catalyst to do things that we should have been doing in the first place. If we're a real country, we should act like a real country and control our own borders. So I just think that it's an absolute scapegoating by the incumbent Liberal Party, and they need to be held accountable for their words, which are based on nothing, and they need to be accountable for the money printing and the stimulus that has landed us in hot water in the first place.
Ms. Bradburn?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, let's think back here a moment. I mean, Mark Carney served as the economic advisor to Justin Trudeau during the COVID-19 pandemic, and he was providing guidance on the economic recovery and strategies. And so he really had that advisory role between 2020 to 2024. It was instrumental in creating a bloated bureaucracy, and as you said, the rising inflation, the excessive printing of money. But today, I'm seeing a shift. His strategy is really, to point the finger at the boogeyman and pit Canadians against the bad orange guy. So I think we have, again, here's a great opportunity. I'm already seeing, Max going down to the States, talking on the different podcasts. Like, it's very clear that he has a willingness to engage. And I think the PPC, we will negotiate and work with our Republican neighbors to the south and work on reaching a common goal. So again, let's avoid the negativity. It really doesn't help serve to improve the situation. And I think we need to really listen to what our neighbors want. And I think that's a strong economy, bring back jobs to the US, and have a gold backed currency. And I think that we as Canadians should be an active participant in that, and we'll just be stronger together.
Okay. You mentioned gold-backed currencies. I'm going to come to that, but first things first. Here's a devil's advocate question. We have a free trade agreement with the United States. Donald Trump signed that in his previous term. Isn't it petty and unprofessional of him to just come in like a wrecking ball to get a better bargaining position? Isn't that what's really happening here? Canada's not to blame at all. Let's go with you, Ms. Bradburn.
I will admit that I don't know this intimately in the ins and outs, but from my gut reaction, I think he's a very strategic person. I think that there's a reason behind why he's doing what he's doing. I also think that sometimes when he smells weakness, I mean, he is a businessman after all, that he'll start poking. And let's face it, he didn't have a good relationship with Trudeau. And so I think that's really where this originated from. And he has caused an uprising. I mean, he has caused change already. Look at what happened with the hydro fiasco with Doug Ford, for example. Didn't take long for the tune to change. And so it is rather amusing in some respects watching this unfold, because it is really petty. I think the free trade agreement probably needs to be renegotiated and modernized for where we are today. But I think this is politics.
Thank you, Mr. Enns.
Yeah, I think he is petty. I think Donald Trump is someone who has some positive points and some negative points, like many people. And whether you appreciate his negotiation tactics or not, he definitely gets the job done for his own team, right? It just happens that we're not actually on his team. So we need to figure out what our team is doing and not, sloganeering jingoists and slap Team Canada on everything and, be silly about it. It's like, we need to actually step up to the plate and figure out how we're going to deal with this. Trade negotiations happen all the time. NAFTA, the original NAFTA, was renegotiated, and it will be renegotiated again because continually there's one party or another that has an issue with some of the terms and conditions of these agreements. Even during the first NAFTA, we had constant disputes about softwood lumber, for example, and the United States not happy about the pricing get for our softwood lumber and wanting it cheaper. And so, our entire supply management in Canada is a massive PPC difference to, every other party, but especially to the Conservative Party. I grew up in a poultry background. I grew up on a chicken farm. And so I understand the quota system and for both eggs and for meat birds. And it's good. It protects those growers, but it's an issue for a variety of reasons, but mostly for trade with the United States. They want access to our markets, and I'm not sure how long we're going to be able to defend our supply management system in the face of a massive country next door that wants access to those markets and can fight us with a trade war. So we need to figure out how we can evolve and not completely allow our supply management industries to be decimated, because we don't want the US dumping their products in our market and destroying our farmers. Their large industrial scale farmers come in and they buy up all of our farms, because it's not as simple as basic reciprocity. That is what will happen. So we need to protect those small and medium scale farmers, but we need to do it in a way that is going to end up in a long-term agreement with the United States, where everybody at the consumer end as well gets affordable products, and we can move on to other issues.
Thank you, Mr. Enns. I kind of want to go to the gold question. Mr. Watson, I see you. I'll get to that in a second. A follow-up question. I'll ask you, Mr. Enns, and then we'll go to you, Ms. Bradburn. You mentioned, not fully opening it up where the U.S. can come essentially buy our farmland. How far would you take that? Because right now there's talks of, mainland China or maybe Hong Kong, China, coming buying up land in BC, Vancouver. There's a lot of foreign money that's come in. Like, how protectionist do you think we should go, Mr. Enns?
Yeah, well, Canada's had a long history of being protectionist in various ways, going back to, Sir Wilfrid Laurier, trying to build East-West trade and avoid the United States. Didn't work out, but it did help, the country in the short term. So, yeah, I mean, we can't just keep pointing the finger at the Americans and not, point at the elephant in the room, which is the Chinese, which have already been doing this at scale, and we're fighting a two-front trade war, and we can't win that. So we have to figure out how it's going to go. I was listening to someone else who said, with housing specifically, we should have reciprocal housing arrangements. If we can't go buy houses in China, then they shouldn't be able to come here and buy houses. I think that's food for thought. And the same should probably happen for every other kind of land, industry, etc. The same type of situation. And if we start there, we might find something that works. It's the sky's the limit, and no one has the answer at the moment.
Thank you, Mr. Enns. Ms. Bradburn, your turn.
Yeah, I'll keep my answer relatively short. I think that we just really need to evaluate who who is purchasing the land and for what purpose. I think we need to, similar to the immigration policy, is maybe put a pause and an assessment. Look at who currently owns plots of land within each province and territory, what it's being used for. Is it the benefit of Canadians or external? Looking at what the percentage is, foreign owned versus Canadian, and seeing if we need to readjust. I think just ultimately looking at if there's ties back, like what kind of ties back to China, is particularly useful. Again, it's something that I think needs a lot more evaluation.
So a quick follow-up question, Ms. Bradburn. I think this is what Mr. Watson's asking. Do you think that only Canadian citizens should be allowed, citizens or Canadian-owned businesses should be allowed to buy Canadian land? Ms. Bradburn, then Mr. Enns.
No, I don't think so. I mean, again, I think that following an assessment, I think that there could be an allocation of a certain amount of land designated in specific areas that could be foreign owned. But I do agree with what Chris was saying, that we have to see how that ties in with our trade negotiations, and perhaps it's reciprocal. I haven't seen anything like that, so I think that's a great idea. Again, I think it depends on what our relationship looks like with each country.
Thank you, Mr. Enns.
Yeah, I think it's part of a larger conversation about should land be a commodity, right? It's like, is land something that is kind of quasi-sacred, or it's like we keep it for our own people, and you can buy all of the stuff that we extract from on top of and below the land, but you can't have the land itself. I mean, maybe that's a spot of protectionism that makes sense. We need to remove land from this commoditization of everything. There's enough things that we can trade and still believe in free trade and keep the land for future generations. I think that there might be something there.
Interesting stuff. Thank you. Ms. Bradburn, last thing before moving on to question number 3. You mentioned the gold standard. I'm not expecting a comprehensive, play-by-play rollout strategy, but like, what do you want to see in good monetary policy?
Yeah, well, I think what the United States is doing right now in terms of taking a deeper look into Fort Knox and the various kind of locations and really determining how much gold they actually have. I think that's important. I don't think we've done something like that here in Canada, but I think it's important to actually first know what we're working with, and then have, let's face it, when the U.S. has a strong dollar, usually and they're in a good economic place, usually we're a fast follow. Their economy, I think, is 10 times larger than ours, and pretty much like brother and sister were kind of tied at the hip. So I'd be curious to see what that analysis looks like and how it's going to impact us. So I think a lot more is going to be coming out within the next 2 months.
Mr. Enns, any comments on gold standard?
I think that for Canada, going back to the gold standard is going to be very difficult since we've sold off all our gold over the past decade, right? So we have gold in the ground yet to be mined, but we have no gold. The ledgers say that we have no gold, so I'm going to go with those. So that's a real issue. In the meantime, we just started issuing US dollar denominated bonds. So Canadian government bonds, but denominated in US dollars. Now, this was done in April of 2024 as well. I'm not sure how frequent it has happened in years prior. But what that says to me is that nobody wants Canadian dollars because you're issuing US denominated debt that we're going to have to repay in US dollars. People are getting their yield, their interest payment in US dollars. Why don't people want Canadian dollars, right? To me, that is a scary situation. It's something that people aren't really talking about, but we should, because it's like that is the first step towards a inevitable monetary union with someone else. There's only one country that I can think of that a monetary union would make any practical sense with, and that would be the United States. And what we saw in the European Union in terms of monetary union, well, it was good for Germany. It was good for the largest economy, and it wasn't very good for the smaller Mediterranean economies that didn't produce as much. Now, it's a bit of a different situation because they don't have the resources. Like Canada's a resource powerhouse, so that might, even things out a little bit. But it's like going back to the gold standard. Unless we had to join the States and the monetary union was backed by gold, that would work. But for Canada to do it, I don't know how many years of gold mining would have to be purchased by the Canadian government just to build up reserves ample enough to even support such a probability.
I'll be honest with you, I blacked out there whenever somebody talks about US denominated debt.
Yeah, sorry. It's just it happened like last week, so it's
no,
relevant news.
I'm familiar with it, but it's too late for us to go into this right now. Let's move on. Third question. We'll start with you, Miss Bradburn.
Sure.
A lot of Canadians are choosing to go to the States to seek medical attention due to the poor access to healthcare. What do you think is the root cause of our crumbling healthcare system? My words. And how can the People's Party remedy that?
Yeah, well, I'm dating myself here, but as the younger generation would say that, the math doesn't math on this one. So if we really think about it, over the last 8 years, I think our Liberal government has brought in far too many immigrants, and to the point where our infrastructure just simply, we can't support these newcomers. It's not their fault. I think our healthcare system is hemorrhaging at the seams, and we just simply can't accommodate the current population level. I actually see this in the mental health space that I'm quite familiar with. So what can we do about it? Well, we're proposing, PPC is proposing that we pause immigration and again, assess, I keep coming back to this word, to create, an improved healthcare strategy. So we're not opposed to immigration. I think this is too often a false narrative that is reported. It's not the case. I think we believe in sustainability and ensuring that our current population is well cared for. But slowly but steadily, we can accommodate and integrate newcomers in a more sustainable manner after the assessment.
Thank you, Mr. Enns.
Yeah, I think that housing and immigration needs to be much closer to a 1-to-1 ratio. We can't just keep people bringing in. We have nowhere to put them. This isn't the 19th century where we could just send them out to the prairies and hope that they build a sod house. That's not going to. So, we need to deal with that. Our health is a serious issue. We can't afford it. One of the excuses for mass immigration is we need the tax base to pay for the healthcare. And so to me, it's kicking the can down the road, especially when so many of our immigration regulations allow for bringing over your extended family. A lot of the people who are brought over as extended family are automatically in the older cohort of individuals who need healthcare assistance, right? So for every immigrant that we bring in that's, a real tax helper, they're helping pay into the system, there's another 0.2 people, maybe on average, who are also now using that system. So it doesn't math, like you said. So that's an issue. And at the same time, we need to look at other ways to cut down on people needing healthcare. So, what can we do in terms of keeping Canadians before they need medical treatment? What can we do with our food supply? What can we do with exercise? With children. I mean, you've got to start somewhere, and prevention is always the best cure, and I definitely believe in that.
So I'm gonna ask a follow-up. If it sounds like I'm being tough on you guys, it's only because I love you. I'm not actually, we're on the same team, but I noticed that both of you, uh, you put most of the emphasis on immigration. So reducing the demand. That's how you would fix healthcare. Chris, I understand you mentioned we should have some preventative healthcare. My pointed question to you, and we'll go with you, Ms. Bradburn, is our healthcare system perfect, running efficiently, effectively, or is there something that we should change with it? If the answer is no, that's okay. But go ahead.
Oh no, it's definitely has serious issues. I think one of the kind of goes back to an earlier comment that was made with talent leaving our country. If you, we don't, I don't think we have enough. I have to look up the stats, but we don't have probably enough people entering into the medical profession, qualified nurses, doctors. I think since COVID, that has sort of tapered off in terms of people entering school for those professions. And those that do tend to go to the States. Obviously, you're paid a lot more there. Um, and I also think that, again, population, we usually have too many cases. So we do need to make sure that we fix our education system. So all of these things are tied. They're not singular um, challenges: education, immigration, healthcare. Like, they're all intimately tied together. And we really have to look at these holistically rather than one by one.
Go ahead, Mr. Enns. Is this for real now?
I think he's stuck.
I'll give him a few seconds. Maybe he'll come back.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I think I'm back.
Go ahead.
Well, maybe not.
We have you. I can see you.
You're both very frozen on my end.
We can see you. Keep going for now. This is funny. He can't see us, but we can see him.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, Mr. Enns. I can ask you a follow-up question. I have a feeling he's going to come back right in the middle of the question. Mr. Enns? Chris? Okay, Ms. Bradburn, while he's sorting out his network issues, you mentioned how you kind of answered this already, but I gotta ask a follow-up question somehow. You mentioned how we have a shortage of nurses and doctors that's been going on since COVID. What do you think, what is the root cause of that shortage? Is it exclusively, predominantly the brain drain to the US? Is it bureaucracy? Is it poverty? What is it?
Oh, well, it's a variety of different reasons. I think ultimately people, especially during COVID, I think there's just a burnout. There's just too many caseloads to take on. You hear quite often, at least I do in my profession, that there's like a lack of time even for their family. They're just working all the time. So I think it's just giving people the breadth and space to do their job effectively. Yeah, cutting red tape, absolutely. Bringing in foreign workers, like foreign nurses and doctors, to supplement where there are gaps. I think that too often, you see it all the time. There's cab drivers in Toronto, for instance, who maybe was a doctor, back in their home country, and they come here and now they have to do, a decade more of education. So we do have to cut the red tape for easier access and loosen up, the ability for people to get qualifications quicker.
Thank you very much. Mr. Enns, are you back? All right, I'll take that as a hard no. I had a follow-up question, but Mr. Andre Meloche in the comments asked a question and he bumped it out of my mind. Okay, if my follow-up question comes back, I'll go back to it. Mr. Milosh, Andre Milosh, he's a former PPC candidate. He's still a supporter, but he's not running. He asks, can we reconcile Canadians when we know that those responsible for the COVID crisis are still in power? Like, can we have reconciliation? Can we let bygones be bygones when the criminals are still there?
I just have one answer for this, and that is, and my cat's joining us as well. So I guess we do have 3 people. Ultimately, what I would love to see happen is for those in power during that time to admit to the shortcomings, to admit, for instance, that the COVID vaccine wasn't necessarily as effective as originally described. Owning up to, places and spaces where there was a miss. And I think that would actually go a long way for the national healing. Just some honesty, transparency, bringing it out of the fringe, really bringing it to light. There already has been a national review of what has taken place, but I don't think it's received as much publicity as what it should. I know other nations have done this as well. So, yeah, I think just tell us the truth. And I think that healing will happen.
All right, thank you. Mr. Enns, are you there?
Can you hear me now? I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. I missed everything.
It's okay. We won't go. We won't try to go back to whatever the question was. Here's the question that was just put to us by Andre Milosh, former PPC candidate. Did we lose him? Oh, so close. All right. Moving on. I'm sure he'll come back at some point. Mr. Milosh has he's got a cat. Madam Bradburn, there's a nice cat in the background. Okay, another question from Andre. Are you with us? Nope. Canada's debt is 1.3 trillion. How do we get out of the bottomless pit of debt? Let's go to you. I'm so bad with names. Mr. Enns, go ahead. The question's for you. How do we get out of the debt? Can you hear me?
Was that to me?
Yes, sorry. I figured throw a question your way. Canada's debt is 1.3 trillion dollars. How do we get out of this bottomless pit of debt? All right, it's going back to you, Ms. Bradburn.
Yeah, again, I will admit that the financial piece is probably not as strong as what it could be. That's something that I am learning a lot more about as I campaign. How do we get out of this bottomless pit? Well, I will admit, love him or hate him, I do like what Doge is doing in terms of going through a deep analysis and evaluation of shortcomings. I would love to see something like that. I know that we do have the Taxpayers Federation, and they're doing a wonderful job. They're really trying to keep our politicians honest and keeping Canadians engaged. Not necessarily Doge, but at least we have something in our community helping us. Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. I think if we could have a policy like that, it would go a long way to help us to really truly understand where the waste is. And I don't think we fully have an understanding or an appreciation of that today as Canadians.
Thank you very much, Mr. Enns. Are you back with us for now?
I hope so. I missed the question. Well, are we still on the debt issue?
Yeah. How do we get out of the debt?
Yeah. Well, at first I didn't have a good answer because I was frustrated about my terrible internet. But I noticed Ms. Bradburn talking about the Doge in the United States. And I think, getting rid of frivolous programs is the first thing that we need to do. We need to stop sending money overseas. We need to stop funding foreign wars. And then we need to see, what other programs are
So close. It's probably people in the audience like, I was going to vote for him, but his internet connection is too poor. I'm afraid we're going to have to move on to the next question. Let's see. The final question, Ms. Bradburn.
Or frivolous.
Skynet Starlink problems, Mr. Enns?
No, tell us problems. Yeah.
We heard part of it. Remove frivolous projects and then figure out what's not necessary.
That's the crux.
We'll bring it back. Final question. There's a heightened sense of anxiety, first lingering from the desire to get Trudeau out and now to keep Carney out. What is it that the People's Party could do better than the Conservative Party, in your opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that we really do need to create a...
Keep going.
Okay. We need to create a strong PPC party coalition across Canada with a united message. So let's use this election to reach disenfranchised Canadians and educate the population on our policies. I think that, again, there's a lot of people who have heard of us, but they don't really know what we stand for. Although I will admit, I think we have very robust policies. They make sense. They're based on common sense, especially around social issues. And I find that Conservatives tend to shy away from social topics. I'll give an example, like the removal of DEI. So I think if we all effectively communicate our policies, really make sure the Canadians understand who we are and what we stand for, it will go a long way. We are the true Conservatives, and our policies reflect that, reflect our stance on these important issues.
Thank you, Ms. Bradburn. Mr. Enns, first of all, I'm very sorry if you're getting frustrated. No one likes internet issues. Mr. Meloche says you are becoming too popular in the polls, so they're censoring you. So that's silver lining.
I appreciate that.
So Mr. Enns, hopefully your internet will survive. You can wrap up your previous question with a question. Yeah, the question is, people have a sense of anxiety. Why should they vote for you and the People's Party instead of the Conservative Party? I think we lost him. Damn it, I talked for too long. Let's give him a few seconds.
Sure.
What time is it there, wherever you are?
Yeah, it's 10:52.
Oh, wow. Wait.
Am I back?
You're back. Talk fast.
I'm back. I think people need to vote with their principles, and they need to vote for integrity. I think that the People's Party is the only party that has any integrity left in the system, although other parties are, they're the unit party. And the vote splitting thing is a bunch of garbage. It's not real. Left and right is a falsehood. A real.
You should switch over to like Shaw or Rogers, something else.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's in the country, if I'm not mistaken.
Kamloops, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Vote compass shows.
Okay, you're back. We got most of that. How can people follow you? How can they get a hold of you, volunteer?
Cool. Yeah, so people, like I said at the beginning, _ Chris Enns on X. I'm physically in Clearwater, so that's outside of Kamloops yet, so the internet's terrible.
Well, we got his Twitter handle. Ms. Bradburn, how can people get a hold of you if they want to volunteer?
Yeah, I would love to have people message me, definitely get engaged. So on X, as it says below, at Lisa Bradburn PPC. And then, of course, just email me, lisa.bradburn@teamppc.ca.
Perfect. Miss Bradburn, thank you very much for coming on, for tolerating my, abuse with the difficult questions. Mr. Enns, I don't know if you can hear me.
I can. I've
or
shut my camera off because that's probably the main issue.
we should have probably done that a long time ago. Yeah, I'm a network engineer. I should have known that. If you can hear me, Mr. Enns, apologies for the, internet gods. And thank you for your time. And thanks to the audience as well. Bye, everyone.